Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike, and I am lagging this morning. Let me just restart that. I hope you are good. It is Monday, the 14th of April, I believe, and we had a very exciting Sunday with the news. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through what we were going to talk about, which is Donald Trump, Sweden, rug pulls. We were going to go through some news about arrests, crypto arrests, things like that, the usual stuff. And of course, it is a Monday, which means it's all kinds of charts. We're going to look at the DXY, we'll look at Bitcoin dominance, all of those kind of things. That's what we tend to do on a Monday, because who wants to start a Monday without looking at copious amounts of charts? We're also going to look at the calendar to see what's coming up this week. Last week we had all of the CPI data come out. That was a big one. This week, let's have a look. But the big news, of course, is that Mantra, or has fallen 90% in the last 12 hours, maybe. And I've got an article to talk through about it. I've also got a tweet about it that I'm going to go through, and I'm going to have a little rant about it because so many people just don't understand liquidity. They don't understand token supply. They don't understand a lot of these things. But this was not a rug pull. Mantra is one of our favorite real-world asset projects. We like what they're doing. They're different to Ondo. They're different to Maple. They're different to Pendle. They're different to Goldfinch. Real-world asset projects are clumped together because they have some semblance of connection to real-world projects. So even though Mantra, Ondo, Maple are all in the same basket, they're completely different fruit. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, because this isn't a rug pull. And that's something to bear in mind. If you do hold Mantra, then we're going to go through that together. So that's what the plan is for today. If you are in chat, say hello, because, oh my days, it is quiet this morning. Good morning to Velvet Rope Hidden. Danny is in chat and Kishan is in chat. And that is it. I don't know where. Maybe people have gone on early summer holidays. Who knows? But let's have a look at the prices and see where we are. Have we bottomed? That is the question. Have we bottomed? Is this the bounce period? Is this the move up from the 49,000 low that we had way back when? Is this that moment? Maybe, maybe. Price-wise then, let me move this up so everybody can see. Remember, volume over the weekend is very, very low. There isn't really a lot to talk about as far as that's concerned, but the Bitcoin price, we did touch 85,000 several times over the weekend. Ethereum is back above $1,600, a good sign. XRP 213, again back over $2. BNB still under $600. I think there's still time there. Solana, now then, I did say, and I have said, $100 to $110 was the sweet spot for buying Solana. Had you bought Solana during the Thursday or Friday stream last week, you would now be up probably 15 to 20% on your Solana. It's not had a bad bounce. And again, it might go higher. The theme of the show today is bullish week. I think we could have a bullish week. The reason being is this tariff stuff that's come out that we're going to talk a little bit about. It's starting to lose its impact. Remember when things happen, we called it the Musk effect. Elon Musk would tweet about crypto back in the day and the prices would rip and rip and rip. And then after about 2 or 3 months of him doing it, it didn't move the price. The mining being banned in China, same thing again. The price would drop and then it just made no difference to the price. I think the tariffs, anything bullish, I think is going to move us up. Anything a little bit bearish, I don't think is going to move us at all. And I think that's the way that it will happen. Of course, tariffs are going to affect the global economy, but I've said for at least the last 2 weeks that this is not Trump's long-term plan. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Again, Cardano, what you're doing at 64 cents, that should be back at 80 cents. Again, if I'm looking at this list of cheap tokens, and that's what they are at the minute, Chainlink and Cardano would be two good ones to pick. But remember what I said. I don't know if it was in an OG video or if I said it on Friday. Look for the coins that are bouncing the most after the drop. Okay, now normally we look at the 24-hour. Let's have a look at the 7 days. These are the coins that have bounced the most in the last week. You have the coins that are recognizable. Helium has bounced. That's probably on the news that the SEC case has been dropped. Hype is like a runaway train. I've got an NFT project that I'm in, which is a VC NFT project where they will invest into tokens and projects and mine Bitcoin and lots of other things. And they have been talking about Hype for a long time. Flare is up, Render is up, Bonk is up. There's a lot of big gainers over the last 7 days. Even ASI is back at nearly 50 cents. Now, I put that down to the fact that we talked about it on Friday. So it was the Fitzgerald pump. Let's just put it at that. So Solana's up there as well. So I would look at the bounce back ability of tokens. Now, that doesn't mean you can't pick up some bargains from the other basket, which is the ones that haven't returned as much. But rule of thumb is if you listen to the experts, the coins that bounce back fastest are the ones that could potentially go on a run. Now, 24-hour pump, Radium is up, Tron, Solana, Pepe, Maker, Ethereum is up nicely. Filecoin, a lot of good gainers and losers over the last 24 hours. Mantra, which we're going to talk about, is down 89%. It was, I believe, 8 billion market cap, 650 million market cap. Now, we're going to talk about market caps and liquidity when we talk about Mantra. And that's when I'm going to kind of have my little speech about these things. Jasmine is down, AB is down, Move is down, Story and EOS, they have been in the bottom for a good few days now. Now, what that means to me is that their narrative is dying. So maybe they are two coins that you shouldn't pay too much attention to. Now, EOS is changing and becoming a Web3 bank. I haven't looked at that. I don't really plan to look at that in too much depth. Now, for me, EOS, because I haven't looked at it, it could go back to 20 or 30 cents. It could also go to $4. I don't know. I don't look at every single coin. So if you want to go and look at EOS, they are changing and it might be worth having a look at them. Theta is down, Athena is down, Walrus is down, not many. So that's pretty much it from the charts. Now we're going to go and have a little look at some X files before we get into the copious amounts of charts. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are well. There's a few things I've not updated on this stream today. I've not updated the fans. I've not done that for a couple of days, so that's probably going to have a big jump next week. I don't just make those numbers up, by the way. Right then, 10 years from now, owning one Bitcoin will make you a high net worth individual. Do you currently own one Bitcoin? If not, are you working towards becoming a whole coiner? Now, I can't share my own tweets on these streams because certain platforms are not happy that you know what my socials are. Even though I am called Crypto Warehouse on YouTube, even though I'm called Crypto Warehouse on X, even though I'm called Crypto Warehouse on Telegram, I'm not allowed to share my own tweets. Crazy. But I do post these kinds of things. Now, on Saturday, I made a very special video for the OGs. If you're an OG, please watch that video. I think only 3 of you have watched it so far because I don't think I dropped it into chat or I didn't tell you about it. There's 3 things you need to look at in your life outside of watching the charts every day. I can't tell you precisely what I said in the video, but it basically revolves around set your goals, work out how long you've got to hit those goals, how much it's going to cost. They're your 3 things. Do you want to buy a $500,000 house and have no mortgage and have enough money to live off $30,000 a year, for example. That gives you a starting figure, excluding inflation, for how you want to prepare for the rest of your life. Bitcoin can fit into that as one of the assets. Obviously, when you buy your home, that will accumulate in value. But think about Bitcoin. Now, this is a bit of a far reach for a lot of people, and I understand that. But the biggest misconception about Bitcoin is that you have to hold one. You don't. Own 1/100th of a Bitcoin, which will cost you $840. Own 1/10th of a Bitcoin, which will cost you $8,450. Okay, you don't have to own one Bitcoin today. If you do, okay, then your job is to not let go of it. If you own 1.5 or 2 or 2.5 Bitcoin, hold on to it. If you need to sell some in this bull run, by all means, but try and hold one. Some of these targets out there are absolutely ridiculous, $24 million Bitcoin, whatever. But we are going to see multiple $100,000 prices, $200,000, $300,000 Bitcoin in the future. If you're 20 odd years of age, you don't need to worry too much about selling in this bull run. Keep hold of it. But again, it's a good question to ask yourself. Do you own enough Bitcoin? And the answer should always be no. That's the rule of thumb. It's always a constant no. You don't own enough Bitcoin. And that sounds crazy, but it doesn't just go up in value. It holds the value of your money against fiat. When the money printer gets turned on, what happens? They inflate the dollar or the pound or the euro. They inflate it. They make more of it. Just print it out of thin air. Your Bitcoin over time will hold value against that inflation. So your $100,000 today, if they print 100% of their currency, your $100,000 in Bitcoin will be worth maybe $100,000 in 10 years' time, but the purchasing power of $100,000. Whereas the $100,000 that you've got today in cash might be worth $10,000. That's the rule of thumb. So it holds its value. Now then, China suspends exports of certain rare earth minerals to the United States. This is something I've mentioned a few times. The reason that the Ukraine is so important to America are the rare earths. There's rare earth minerals there. China, I believe, has about 75% of all the rare earth minerals. So China has America by the short and danglies for certain things. And America needs to reposition itself to counter any threat like that. 130 countries are now negotiating new trade deals with the US, the White House says. Now, don't believe this nonsense, okay? Most countries are going to renegotiate with the United States, and over the next few weeks, the majority of these countries, the smaller countries, you know, they are going to agree to maybe a 10% tariff, 10% in, 10% out, okay? Which negates the point of having tariffs, but there you go. So they're going to get rid of the tariffs, and that was his plan all along. His plan all along was to get rid of the tariffs or reduce the tariffs as far as he could. And to do that, he had to carry out his shock and awe technique, and it's going to work. Whether you like him or not, it's going to work. And Biden would have done the same thing. Obama would have done the same thing. Clinton would have done the same thing. Same thing. Right then, Mew, we are continuing our partnership with Mew. As you can see on the screen, they are one of our sponsors. We're going to be doing content on Mew on some platforms. We do some TikToks, we do YouTube videos, we do videos on other platforms, X, for example. So we're going to be continuing to do that for the next 3 months. So a big thank you to Mew. We've got a few to get through, not too many. Remember, if you've got any questions in chat, ask away. I stun most people into silence during these streams. Either that or they fall asleep. I'm not too sure which way around it is. Now then, I do not believe this article for 1 second. The Wall Street Journal are basically saying that CZ gave evidence against Justin's son as part of the Department of Justice plea deal. And again, CZ has come back and said, remember who went to prison. So again, irrespective of whether you like these two individuals, there is somebody trying to cause some kind of conflict between them. And this isn't the first time it's happened. It happened with FTX. FTX were buying up advertising space in these crypto news channels and whatever it might be to smear CZ. Very simply put, I'm not saying that the sun shines out of his backside. What I'm saying is you shouldn't believe everything that you read because they are claims. Now then, one thing that we like to do on here is promote new products. And this is a new product called Compounder. It is on the Kronos chain. It is operated by WolfSwap. And what this is, very simply put, is it is a liquidity pool platform where you can put your funds and you can earn a yield on the right hand side. If you've ever listened to us talk about Camino Finance, this is pretty much the same thing, but this time this is on Kronos. Now, when it started, I think it started yesterday, it had 120,000. So it's been live for a couple of hours and it's already got 70 or 80,000 in there. Don't expect this to be billions. We're talking about the Kronos chain here. So I expect this to go towards $250,000, $350,000, and there's various different pools there. I am going to be making a video about this today because I want to explain to you how liquidity pools work, and I think it's a good opportunity to talk about impermanent loss, which I always call impairment loss. I know it's impermanent loss. That is something that we're going to cover in the video. So it's an educational video as well as being a video about Compounder, but it's good to kind of combine the two. So you know the risks, really. That's the key. You need to know the risks of these things. Now then, I don't expect this week to be anywhere near as hectic as last week. We don't really have sales potentially. Whether there's a sign that we're going to start heading into a recession in America. Jobless claims is going to be important on Thursday. Housing will be important and building will be important. How is the economy going? Are they building more houses? Are houses being sold? Those kind of things. There really isn't a lot to talk about next week. We might as well look at next week. The PMI comes out on Wednesday next week. That's probably the key one. The new home sales next Wednesday. So not this Wednesday, the 16th, Wednesday the 23rd. Why? If you listen to Chairman Powell, he talks about three things. He talks about unemployment, he talks about inflation, and he talks about house prices. If house prices are coming down, if inflation is coming down, and unemployment is going up, then that is the perfect scenario for him to turn the money printer back on. So he talks about it. He tells you what he wants. Every month that he does this, he tells you what he wants. So the new home sales, again, important. Jobless claims, important on Thursday. So this week, probably, we're going to have quite a nice, simple week, which is great because that's what we like. From time to time, just a nice week. We don't want to have constant... We don't want to have constant market data coming in and moving the market around and causing all ends of problems. We don't want that, do we? We do not want that. Right then, let's move on very quickly. Where are we? Liquidation heat map over the last 24 hours is probably going to be quite low. As you see there, OM is the second largest, as you would expect, as the token has dropped 88%. If you go over the last 24 hours, though, 340 million worth of longs and shorts wreck. That's really nothing here or there. It's not really that important. Keep an eye on the markets because liquidations happen when the price goes to a certain point that liquidates the shorts if it goes up, and it liquidates the longs if it goes down. And you can see through heat maps where those prices are. Maybe $87,000 will liquidate 300 million in shorts. Maybe if the price falls to 81.8, it will liquidate 400 million in longs. That's why you look at the heat maps, because it tells you where the price of Bitcoin is going to go and who's going to get liquidated there. And then your decision is, are we going to have a short squeeze or a long squeeze? Very simply put. But now let's get into the actual charts. This is the dollar index. Now, on here, you will see my graph. I don't want to join the leap. Here we go. So we had our channel. And then Trump came along and said, we're going to have a war, tariff war. It broke down. It did find a little bit of resistance here. I suggested that this was going to bounce into here and then maybe come down. Trump was having none of it. And we didn't just break. I mean, we literally hit every branch on the ugly tree on the way down. We absolutely crushed it. Now, we've come down as far as March 2022. 3 years. Okay, now, it's a pretty pattern. Oops. That is not what I wanted to do. That is a pretty pattern. Really. I don't know what you call that. That's not really head and shoulders, but there we go. So we have broken below 100, which I did not expect to see. You know, got to understand we can only predict things, or not predict things, we can only guess where things are going to go, and an educated guess at that. And my educated guess was a bounce here with a long-term goal of getting here. That was my long-term goal. And I wasn't expecting us to get there anytime soon. In fact, I didn't expect us to break below 100. Now, what's going to happen next? That's the most important thing. First of all, this is the strength of the dollar, and it's weakening. There's many, many reasons it's weakening. There's the trade and tariff issue. There's people selling American bonds, American gilts. The more people that buy dollars, the more valuable the dollar gets. The more people that sell dollars, the weaker the dollar gets. Now, I do not think we're going to be down here for very long. I do expect, I mean, this is an incredible drop from the 4th of March to the 16th of April. Now that's what, 6 weeks. It sounds like a long time, but in traditional finance, it's a blink of an eye. We've absolutely tanked. That is unbelievable. But the circumstances surrounding all of this as what this has happened. So I expect something like this, maybe some kind of recovery. I don't think we're going to keep going to the downside. And again, when you talk about Bitcoin going up and we talk about all the different things every single week, the same thing every again, this being at 99.3 is a godsend for Bitcoin. But I don't think it's going to stay there. I think we were going to get back above 100, 101, 102. And I expect with all of these trade deals being signed that we're going to see the DXY back over 100 as soon as that happens. Maybe next week, maybe this week, we don't know. But that was a dramatic decline. Now, what isn't declining and what doesn't seem to want to decline is this. This is the whale. This is the long march of the Ents. Nothing's stopping this, okay? It's all well and good. Talking about alt season, it's not going to happen. We are at 63.5%. Almost 2/3 of crypto is currently sitting in Bitcoin. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. Now, you will see my beautiful arrow here. I draw the best arrows in crypto, bar none. That's not how to draw an arrow. That is where I think we are going to go. Now, I don't know if and when this is ever going to break down. We had a little mini alt season there, but since then we've gone up and we've respected this channel brilliantly. Now, what does tend to happen in this channel is when we touch the top of it, as we've done here, we kind of have a little bit of a come down. Now, if this happens in the next week or so, alts will go up faster than Bitcoin. That's the point of Bitcoin dominance. Now, we could come down all the way to 60.24% and stay in this range. So Bitcoin could lose 3%, 3.5% off its Bitcoin dominance, come down to 60% and still be in this channel. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if it just does this, this period here is going to be where the alts can run. Ethereum can go back above $1,800. Maybe Solana goes to $150, $170. Maybe Cardano goes back to 80 cents, XRP at $2.50. That's what happens if Bitcoin dominance has a breather. Now, again, something else could happen, and Bitcoin dominance could do that and just accelerate. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think, as you can tell by the title, bullish week ahead, unless Trump and Z say something else this week. I think we're going to have a good week for alts, especially. Maybe Bitcoin, 87, 88,000. But I think we're going to have a good week. Now then, this is the total market cap of crypto. And we did wick below. Oops, hang on. Our line. But now we are back above it. Now, the thing to bear in mind with this is we're doing that. And we are stuck in this kind of channel. And what we need to see, very simply put, is a breakout. And we need to see a $2.85 trillion market cap, which is about an 8% move. It's not a lot in crypto, but it's a lot of value. It's 220 billion being added to crypto. Now, again, don't know when that's going to happen, but we are at a very crucial point. This is the 2024 high. So we've retraced all the way back to the bullish part of last year. We've come all the way back down again, having had the post-Trump pump. No, pre-Trump pump. And now we've got the post-Trump dump. Everything rhymes with Trump, doesn't it? So we're back at this line. And again, maybe we hold it. Maybe we come back up. But again, I'm thinking that we have some kind of rally this week. You know, the data that's come out has been fairly positive. The CPI data, the core inflation is coming down. Oil prices are coming down. The trade war is likely to come to an end. It's not all negative, but I don't think we've really taken that on board with the crypto prices because we've still got the tariff overhang. Now, this is excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what you can see here, same again, 2024 high. The total value is sitting back at that line. And like the other one I've just shown you, we did wick lower, but we have recovered. And now we're back at this line. Now, to go any higher, we would need to go up another 8%, very similar to the previous one. Those are two moves we can easily do this week. But what we don't want is we don't want this, okay? Because that brings us back into this range here. And that was the range that we sat at for what felt like an eternity last year. So we want a pump, please, Mr. Crypto. We want a pump. We want to see some kind of move. Now, what could indicate that move is this chart that I've added over the last few weeks. And this is, of course, the money supply. Let's drag that over here. Now, you will see the blue line there. The blue line there. This is where they started to constrict the economy to suck out the inflation. But you'll also see that from about here, which was April last year, we're starting to see this move up. Now, if we wanted to, and we don't have time, and I've done it in a previous video, if we want to overlay Bitcoin on this, what Bitcoin does is it kind of, and that's the wrong way around, it kind of lags. So it does this. So given that this is now in an uptrend, I would expect Bitcoin to start going up as well, because the more money that exists, the easier it is for Bitcoin to go up. It's just another one of those things to add to the DXY coming down, to interest rates coming down. It's just another one of the things that we keep an eye on. Now, we seem to be, if we move that line, we seem to be almost at all-time highs for the money supply. Almost. 21.67 trillion. I think that's going to go to 22 trillion, and then Bitcoin is going to move. Right then, should we move on? That was the heavy part of the day. I can't believe I do this on a Monday. It's the worst day of the week for me to sit here and talk to you about charts. People are falling asleep in chat. Tariq, bless him, has joined during the charts. The pain that he has to suffer listening to me talk about charts. Right then, this is going to be a little bit of a rant. Not too much of a rant because we've got Om to talk about next. I think Om is... Actually, Om's about 3 articles away. Trump family expands crypto ventures with projects spanning mining to stable coins. Now, I'm going to have a little mini rant about this because it's not about the article. It's about the fact that it's been noticed. Okay, so this is my mini rant. I said this before he came into power. Okay, Donald Trump is a man who wants to make an awful lot of money. Okay, he wants to make money. Wants to make money for himself. Wants to make money for brand Trump. He wants to make money for his family. If you believe that Donald Trump is going to walk in the door of the White House like some Robin Hood and his merry men to save America and save the world and not make a dime in the process, you are sadly mistaken. Donald Trump is going to make money along the way. World Liberty Financial is heavily into Ethereum. This is why I keep talking about Ethereum. He is going to have his own stable coin. Fantastic. They're going to have their own ETFs. Now, do you think they're doing that because they believe they're the most moral individuals on the planet? Do you think they're doing it to help Americans? Or do you think they're doing it to line their own pockets? Now, we know this, and it should come as no surprise. Oh, they're also partnering with HUT to have their own crypto miner. So let's look at what they've got. They have their own crypto investment platform, crypto mining, crypto ETF, crypto stablecoin. They've got all the bases covered. They've bought a share in a crypto exchange, which I can't mention the name of, but it's the black and yellow one. They've got a 10%, I think, interest in that. Don't be naive to believe that Trump isn't going to make money out of this. Of course he's going to make money out of this. It's what he does. He makes money. Does he justify it to himself? Yes, I think he does. He justifies it to himself because he's going to save America $2 trillion a year, or that's the aim. So he's going to make a few billion, 10 billion maybe, along the way. But in return for that $10 billion, he's going to possibly save America $1 trillion. Now, if I said to you, I'm going to turn your $100,000 into $1 million, but in doing so, I'm going to charge you $50,000, what would you do? You can either do one or two things. You can say, you know what, $50,000, that's a hell of a lot of money. That's a hell of a lot of money to give you. He's making you $900,000 and he's taking 50. He's not even taking 10%. And that is the way, unfortunately, these men in suits, the orange men in suits, that's how they work. They give you as much as they can in this instance, but don't believe for 1 second that Trump and a few other people are trying to do this for the benefit of mankind. They are not Robin Hood and the merry men in the slightest. Now, the other thing to bear in mind about this is, and I might make a video about this, when Trump was in power 8 years ago, he didn't like Bitcoin because he saw it as a threat to the dollar. What else is a threat to the dollar? Gold. Gold is a threat to the dollar. Of course it is. Because in times of war, in times of panic, what do people do? They go and buy gold. They sell dollars, pounds, euros, whatever it might be, and they go and buy gold. So what did the American government do? They hold a lot of gold. Now, if Bitcoin is a threat You've got two options. You outlaw it, which clearly is never going to work. It's too big now. If you don't outlaw it, what do you do with Bitcoin? You buy it. You hold it as a strategic reserve. So if Bitcoin wins, America wins. That's how they see it. So does he like Bitcoin to this day? No. If you sat Donald Trump down and said to him today, if you could go back in a time machine and remove crypto, would you do it? And Donald Trump and maybe not Elon Musk, Biden, Kamala Harris, Bill Gates, all of those types of people, they would all want Bitcoin gone because it is another asset to take their wealth, if you know what I mean. So don't believe for one second that Bitcoin is this panacea that they all absolutely love now. They're in it because if you're a pack of wolves and you see a pack of hyenas and you've got a herd of wildebeest, what do? You've got two options. Do you fight the hyenas, or do you team up to take down more of the wildebeest? Because that's what Trump's done. Trump's gone, right, we can't beat it, we need to join it. And that's why we've got a strategic reserve. So be careful believing that Donald Trump is some kind of savior. He is not a savior, but saying that, he is the better of two evils, because certainly you couldn't have Harris in power. Right then, let's move on. That was supposed to be my major rant, but I've kept my powder dry for Bitcoin in Swedish reserves proposal in Parliament. Now, it doesn't matter if this passes or it doesn't pass. What matters is the fact that it's actually got to the stage now where nation sovereign states are talking about adding Bitcoin to their reserves. Now, this could very well fail. I'd say there's probably a pretty good chance it fails. Then Norway tries it. Maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe India try it. And at some point, one of them is going to do it. And that point, you are looking at it now going, oh, well, America's the only one that's got a strategic reserve. Well, no, it hasn't actually. You've got El Salvador that's been buying the dip for 2 years. You've got Bhutan. The UK owns 60,000 Bitcoin. China owns Bitcoin. So there are nation states holding Bitcoin, and they haven't sold them. Germany sold them. The idiots that they are, they sold their Bitcoin. So this is something that's going to keep happening. We're going to keep including these. Sweden, does it include it? Do we care what the details are? No. But this is also, okay, can't highlight it, it's not letting me. Swedish authorities should store Bitcoins seized by agencies such as customs or police rather than selling them. The Sveriges Riksbank, Sweden's central bank, maintains its reserve portfolio on traditional assets. Again, we've seen other countries, by the way, who have started to hold on to the likes of BNB, is a good example. So, again, it's coming, and it's coming faster than I expected. I did not think in 2025 we'd be sitting here talking about countries' strategic reserves. My plan, which I believed was going to happen, was we would go from individuals to ETFs, so that means more individuals can buy Bitcoin, to then go on to blue chip companies holding it in their reserves, you know, Apple's, Microsoft's, Google's, whatever it might be. And then maybe in another 3 years' time, 2 years' time, you would have nation states. And what's happened is everything's been compressed. The ETFs went live and everybody bought Bitcoin. And I think it's been partly down to the lobbying by the Winklevoss brothers and Brad Garlinghouse and Charles Hoskinson, and even Elon Musk is pro-crypto. Maybe this is accelerating it. But we seem to have just shot by. You know, we could potentially have as many countries as major blue chips holding Bitcoin by the end of the year. It's entirely possible. Because, yes, I show you a HODL 15 chart that shows you 70 or 80 companies that hold Bitcoin, but how many really hold a lot of Bitcoin? Strategy B, is it Metaplanet in Japan? We know that Robinhood, is it Robinhood? No, not Robinhood. GameStop are going to buy 1.5 or $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. But then on the other side, you've got the Bhutans, the El Salvadors, America, China, the UK. It seems to have just been compressed. Now then, let's move on very quickly, see where we are. Between Sol and Ethereum, my vote is for Sol. Well, you know what? If I had to choose between these two, my vote would also be for Sol. There is a massive fork in the road that we passed about 2 years ago. And that fork in the road, and I've said this again before, is between retail and financial institutions. And retail went down Solana, and financial institutions went down Ethereum. And that's the fork in the road. And the reason that fork in the road exists is because Solana kept going down. And if you are Larry Fink, you do not want to launch the projects on a chain that goes down. And that's a simple fact. You can then throw in pump.fun, you can throw in all of those other things at Solana. But people like to gamble with meme coins. Can't stop them. We're going to talk about rug pulls later on. Now, Sol is outpacing ETH on these fronts. Now, we know that's a lovely little picture. Look at that. That is, I don't know, that should be Vitalik and Anatoly. I don't know why it's a white man with a mustache chasing a black man. I don't know what they're doing. They're going to have a fight. Solana and Ethereum have varying performances in the past month, with the asset taking different paths. Sol has had a bullish run, 3.45% over the past month. ETH has dropped 14%, but there are there are different statistics upon which Solana has always been better than Ethereum, and statistics that have been better than Ethereum for the last 2 years. The Sol ETH daily chart closed above 8 cents, marking its highest level since inception. I've never looked at the Sol ETH chart, ever, but that looks bullish on Sol. The implications are clear. Investors are allocating more funds into Sol relative to ETH. This kind of move typically reflects expectations of stronger performance from Solana in the short to mid-term. Artemis's liquidity flow data aligns with this shift. Over the past week, Solana posted a positive net flow of $25 million. Ethereum, by contrast, saw a negative net flow of 8.8. We looked at these. There's a really nice graph that shows you the flows, and I think Debridge on Solana show it, and it shows the flows from which chain to which chain. I think even Wolfswap have got that on now, which is really nice. So, what is happening? Daily transactions, supply of stable coins. Again, stable coins is the big one for me. It's liquidity, and Ethereum. I think Ethereum's got more liquidity, stablecoin liquidity, than every chain put together. But we were talking not long ago about Solana having about 2.5 billion in stablecoins. It's got 12.6 billion now. That's almost a 6x growth, which is incredible. Supply of stablecoins is massively important to every chain. Cardano has been hamstrung by a lack of stablecoins, and that is probably their biggest issue, is their lack of stablecoins. When you see Sui or Say talking about stablecoins and adding new stablecoins, whatever it might be, that's because they need that liquidity in their chain. Very simple. Market responded positively to this. We don't need to talk about all this kind of stuff. So I think, transactions, stablecoins, on-chain activity, it's all pointing to Solana, but it's what you would expect. Remember, Ethereum, back in the day, Ethereum was all things to all men, which is the saying. And it had to do everything before Solana came along, and before the layer 2s really came along. It had to do everything. And it was trying to do things very, very badly. Remember, you had NFTs, DeFi, gaming tokens, all new projects launched on Ethereum directly. And that was never going to work. It was never built to do that. So when the layer 2s came around, people thought, we're going to go to layer 2s, we'll go and sit over there and we'll go and do whatever. And then you had the other chains come along, the Solanas came along. Cardano took forever to build out. And I think that cost it a little bit of positioning because Cardano was behind Ethereum. Solana came along and it was like, right, we're going to do NFTs, we're going to do games, we're going to do fast transactions. And Ethereum just got left in the dust. But that's fine because that's what Solana's been built for. Ethereum is not built for that. It never was. So again, it's the same thing again. You're comparing apples with pears. Just because they are blockchains, layer one blockchains, it doesn't mean they have a like-for-like comparison. They should never have had NFTs or gaming tokens, and had Solana existed all those years ago, Solana would have run them from day one, but they weren't around. Now then, this is the issue that is causing all the consternation around the world. Mantra's token falls 90% in sudden crash. Team blames reckless liquidations. The token has fallen 90%. It was about $6 or $7. Now it's about 60 or 70 cents. The activity was triggered by reckless liquidations, not anything to do with the project. Hours after the crash began, there was a massive forced liquidation from a large ARM investor on a centralized exchange. Mantra's co-founder wrote on X, a Mantra community lead denied the crash was the result of the team selling in a message on Telegram before it was inaccessible. The project's co-founder, John Patrick Mullin, previously rebuffed accusations that the Mantra team controlled most of the token circulating supply. The token collapsed dramatically on Sunday, crashing 90% in a few hours. It went from $5.20 down to 50 cents. I think it's a little bit higher today. Now, we do have a more forensic breakdown of this. This was from last night, very late last night when I put this into the stream. And this morning I went and got a tweet that highlights a few things that I think we should talk about. And then I'm going to go and have my little rant about this because so many misconceptions about things that you need to understand. Good morning to everyone who survived the Manta crash. So this was a liquidity shock triggered by problems. So there was low liquidity on the token. The daily volume was only $50 million against a $6 billion market cap. The TVL was only 4 million. 4 million out of 6 billion. The FDB fully diluted value was 8 to 10 billion. 90% of the tokens were held in a single wallet. The 6 billion didn't reflect real value. The cascade effect, a large sell kicked off a price dump, triggered stop losses, led to mass liquidations in futures, deeper crash, no user base. Despite the sky-high valuation, OM lacked active users or real ecosystem partners. And there is the graph. Now, I'm going to have a quick chat to you about this because it's important that you understand where I'm coming from. We reviewed OM 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and we said at the time 60 to 80 cents is a good price to buy OM. 60 to 80 cents. It's in our video. Now, they went on the mother of all runs. They went as high as $8. And I said a few weeks ago, some altcoins may have had their bull run. Maybe XRP. Maybe they've had their bull run. Maybe going from 30 cents to $3 in the case of XRP. Maybe that was the bull run. Maybe its bull run is done. Now, I'm not saying that we are the font of all knowledge. What I'm saying is the very video I made about Mantra valued it at 60 to 80 cents per token. It's at 67 cents today. Now, clearly, I was massively wrong about the value of Mantra because it went as high as $8.40. So clearly I was wrong. But I don't think, and I'm not claiming glory on this, but saying that a token's value is 60 to 80 cents, and then after this massive correction, it comes back down to 67, 68 cents. There's no coincidence in that. But the one thing I want to talk to you about, I better show you the chart before I show you this. So that's the chart, okay? 67 cents we're at now, okay? Now, what I want to talk to you about is two things, because I've seen a lot of fake information on the internet. Right, let me restart my browser while I'm doing this in the background. Okay. There's a lot of misconceptions about values of tokens, valuations of projects. There's a lot of lack of understanding. And now I am not the world's leading expert on this thing. You've got to bear that in mind as well. I give you my opinion. And if you like my opinion, great. Other people will disagree with it, great. You should make your own mind up based on 5 or 6 opinions. But this is my opinion. Number one, the video I made about Mantra said that this is based on the projected value of the project. I'll get to you in a minute, Tariq. Projected value of the token. And there's 2 types of tokens that exist. There is speculative tokens, projected values, as in what it's going to build. Now, Mantra, the actual, yeah, so did we all. What Mantra is, it's a platform for onboarding real world asset projects. Okay? The project is sound. The project is absolutely sound. Now, it launched, I believe, in September 2024. Launched as in the price of the token pre-September was speculation. It didn't have a built product. Then the product launched. Now, did that pump to $8.40 surprise me? Absolutely, of course it did, because I was talking about 60 to 80 cents in my video. So, and funnily enough, in my video, I think I said that this coin had a 10 to 20x chance. Now, 10 to 20x from 60 cents is $6, $7.40. So we weren't far off. But the key is to understand a lot of people online are saying, well, you can't trust real world assets because the assets that exist in the real world don't reflect the assets that are in the crypto sphere. And you have to sell those assets in the real world, which takes some time. So the token with projects that exist in the real world. So an office block, or think of another example, or treasuries or bonds, whatever it might be that exist in the real world. And you are buying tokens that reflect that project. Ondo, for example, the token doesn't really have any utility at all, but the token is still 80, 90 cents, $1. Mantra was a platform. So if you wanted to come along and say, right, I want to now build a project where you can buy gold and sell gold on your platform, and we're going to have synthetic versions of that gold, then Mantra's platform would allow you to build it. So it's a layer, if you think about it, it's a layer 1 real world asset platform. In no way, shape or form is anything in Mantra backed by a real world asset. It's not how it works. The only thing you should care about being backed by real world assets are stable coins. If you have a stable coin with a $10 billion market cap in crypto, there should be at least $10 billion in treasuries or banknotes or in cash in a bank somewhere in the real world. That's all you should care about. They are backed, collateralized by real world assets. Ondo's token, no utility. It's just the token representing the value of Ondo. Okay? Syrup from Maple is different. Maple makes money, so it's not speculation. That's why we were so adamant we wanted to work with Maple. They make a profit. They make about $400,000 a month profit. Okay? Profit. Or is it revenue? Profit or revenue? I think it's profit. Now, the key here is speculation versus deliverables. Before September last year was speculation. Now it's deliverables. Ondo has always been deliverables. Maple is deliverables, as in it makes money. It makes a profit. It will therefore, if market conditions don't change, exist in 5 or 6 years' time. What Mantra hadn't done was onboard 50 or 60 different projects to use its platform and start generating fees. That's what it hadn't done, but that would take time. Look at Chainlink, it's taken 5 years. So Mantra was a long-term project. Now, that's the project. I still stand by the fact that's a solid project. It's being panned. The people behind the team, so the team behind the project, everyone is being hammered at Mantra. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is when we do video reviews, you look at liquidity. And Brett was the best example we could give you of this. Brett had a $1 billion market cap when we did the video. It had hardly any liquidity. Now, what is liquidity? Let's say, and we're going to make this plain, simple, let's just get the maths right here. If you've got a $6 billion project and you have $50 million in liquidity, and let's just say for argument's sake, somebody wants to sell $40 million of that token, that project will not be worth $6 million once those transactions have gone through. Because that $40 or $50 million of liquidity, that is buy orders at different prices. $6, $5, $4, $3, $1, 50 cents. Okay? Now, there will be maybe huge buy orders at 50 cents because that's what the price was a year ago. So when somebody goes to sell the amount of tokens that were sold, it goes back and it sucks all of those buy orders up and takes them, and the price crashes. Now, in answer to Tariq's question, I am not selling the tokens. Number one, I don't hold enough for it to really bother me. Okay, I hold 20 tokens, if that, and I farmed them on one of the platforms that we're streaming on. I farmed them because I like the project, and had I been able to buy them at the time, I would have bought them, but they weren't listed on some of the major exchanges, so I couldn't buy them. So the things to understand about this is, do I think it's a rug pull? No. Do I think it is a pump and dump? Which is the same kind of thing. No, I don't. I don't think it's a pump and dump at all. I think that certain individuals that held a lot of this token sold them in one go, which then triggered all of the stop losses, which then triggered all of the liquidations, which forced the price through the ground. It was a massive flash crash. Now, good. That's a good trade, that. So what I would do, it depends how many you own, and I'm not going to give financial advice, of course, but I'm going to hold them. I don't think the project is bad. I don't think what they're doing is bad. Now, we did another example of this. Was it called Trello? I think was a project. Now, Trello's team were building a very simple project, and somebody pumped the price of this project to the upside. And I made a video very quickly saying, don't buy this token. Please don't buy this token. It's going to go massively, massively high. And I think it's manipulated. Now, the team didn't do it. It wasn't the team. It was a third party who pumped the token to the upside. Now, if we're talking about massive whales who own 50 million or 20 million or 10 million on, and they dump them without liquidity, it's going to completely wreck the price. Now, I'm not going to be cynical here, but if somebody sold at between $3 and $6 and the price is now at 50 cents, could there be an opportunity for this same unscrupulous person to go and buy in at 50 and 60 cents and 6x the number of tokens they hold? That is perfectly possible. I think this project will recover, but I think it's going to take a long time. Now, if you bought Tariq at 60 cents or 70 cents, and we go back to 80 cents or $1, you're in profit. You could take your profit and move on. I don't hold enough. I've got mine staked, earning 8%, whatever it is. I think it's actually earning 500% right now because of what's gone on. So it's up to you. I'm not going to sell mine. If this happened to Cardano or XRP or any major chain, I wouldn't sell. Look at Solana. What did we do with Solana? We were buying at $12 and $15. When everybody was telling us Solana is trash, we were buying Solana. The Oracle was buying Solana. He was buying it on the way home from college. He was walking home from college with his mobile phone, buying Solana at $12. And now irrespective of how much higher we go, sitting at $130, he 10x'd his money in 2 years. I don't get the vibe, the feeling that Mantra is finished. This was a third party liquidating the project by putting in a massive sell order. Do I think it's market manipulation? Yes. Do I think this person did it on purpose? Yes. Do I think they did it knowing that the price would come through the floor? Yes. All of those things are yeses. But I don't believe for 1 second that we are going to see a massive correction. I think this is it. I think we get to this price because that's the price I said it was worth. And then I think give it a few weeks, maybe it goes back to $2 or $1.50 or something like that. But I am certainly not going to sell my Mantra at this price. It's not worth it, really. What's it? $12? Don't even know what it's worth. $20? So I'm not going to sell it. The critical question is it going to go back to its all-time high this bull run, or will it take until the next bull run? He has a large allowance from you to buy his sell. He doesn't have a large allowance from me. He now earns his money himself. He doesn't have any allowance from me. But anyway, good morning to Solo Sky. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so basically, my long and short answer is I personally am not selling my Mantra. Do I think it was oversold, overbought? Yes. Did I think that maybe it was the end of its bull run? Yes. I've said that on a few streams because where does it go from 6 or 8 billion? It's not a $40 billion project. So I do think it had its bull run. I think what we should do is give it a week. The best traders are the ones that don't trade. You go back, you read anything about people that buy a portfolio. The people who don't trade make the most money because what you do is you jump from one train to another, and those trains that you jump to might slow down and the train you jump off might speed up. And this is fundamentally, at its heart, not a pump and dump. That's what I would say. Now then, we are going to go on to, and I've got a link for this. Not sure what the link is for, and it is midday. I have been talking a little bit today. What's this? Oh, I know what this is. Right, let me bring this up. See, this is the irony of my stream, is that if you give me a second, bring this up. There we go. Okay, so this I was doing yesterday anyway. So over the weekend, a token rugged, and the token was called Lioness, and it absolutely rugged. Okay, and this gentleman here, Mainland Crow, he shared it. Now, forget this token. It's not about this token. It's about dealing with rug pulls and how to avoid them, and which again is really ironic because none of my rules would apply really to what's just happened with but we'll go through it anyway. So what this applies to is if you see a token that's been launched and that token is everybody's talking about this token, you know, we won't, but everybody else will talk about this token, Gotius Maximus, for example, and the token is absolutely flying up, and you get in and then you get out and you make a profit, fair play to you. But I have 3 rules that I try and stick to. Number 1, timing. If the token is less than a week old, I don't buy it. So if the token came out today, the earliest I would buy that token is next Monday, next Tuesday of next week. I won't buy it in the same week that it comes out. Why? Because, and I did get this independently verified by Grok, the majority of rug pulls happen within 72 hours. 72 hours is 3 days. That's how long it takes for something to rug pull. We do a Chronos 4-in-4 video every Sunday. It's about 8 minutes long. It's never 4 minutes. Don't know why I lie to myself. But anyway, the key is that I won't cover a project that's only just come out. I will wait a week for the project to be out and then cover it, because the majority of the time they will rug pull in that week, and they do. So first is timing. How long has the project been live? And we haven't done many project videos in a while, but we always look at when that project came out. Normally it's 3 months. Secondly, holders. How many people hold the token, and how much of the token supply do they hold? So Tariq comes to me and says, right, I've got Bonk here in one hand and I've got Conk in another hand. Which one should I invest in? They've both got the same market cap, both got the same circulating supply. What can I do? Well, the first thing you should do is look at the liquidity, circulating supply, obviously liquidity. How much liquidity is in both projects? Then, how old are both projects? In Bonk's case, it's 2 years old. In Conk's case, it's a month old. The next thing is then holders. There are 600,000 or 200,000 holders of Bonk. Conk has 1,000 people. And of the 1,000 people that hold Conk, one person holds 30% of the supply. Now, that's massively important, because that one person could dump, as we've just seen with Mantra, and wipe out the value of a project. And then finally is listings. And this is where I always would probably, if I went on to some kind of debate show, I would be castrated by people, because I tell you to keep your money on exchanges if you don't know what you're doing, and I tell you to only buy tokens that get listed on centralized exchanges. That's what I try and do. Being listed on centralized exchanges does not guarantee that project is going to do a 10x. I get that. You can look at certain listings, you know, a token gets listed on a certain exchange, the price goes up, the price comes straight back down. I know that. But there is a certain level of certainty with a token being listed on an exchange that they've gone through certain loopholes. The project has got to a certain size. We've seen this with Trump, Melania, both got listed on all the exchanges, both dumped to zero, okay? So that on its own is not a reason, but forget them for now. If we look at other projects get listed over time. They reach a certain market cap and they get listed. So it's none of those three things should be taken on their own. They all need to be taken together. If the project is 4 or 5 months old, if it's got 20 or 30,000 holders, and it's starting to get listed on the major top tier exchanges, that is a token that you have more certainty won't dump than a token that's been around for 12 hours, okay? You're never going to get away from pump and dumps and rugs. They're always going to exist. In 5 years' time, we're still going to have pump and dumps. But there are certain things you can do to try and avoid them as best you can. That's the only way to say it. Everyone's going to get caught with a rug or a pump and dump at some point. It's just part of nature. But it's one of the things we talk about here, risk management. We say it all the time. If you've got $10,000, take $200 and go and play with AI coins or meme coins or highly speculative coins. Go and do that, because at the end of the day, your main portfolio remains untouched, but you've still got some play money, degen money. That's how it should be worked. What you shouldn't be doing is selling Bitcoin to buy an AI coin, a real world asset coin, a meme coin, any coin outside of the top 50. You shouldn't be doing that, because that's your bread and butter. Your Bitcoin is your bread and butter, and your Ethereum and your Solana and your Cardano and your XRP. That's your bread and butter. That should be 85% of your portfolio. The rest of it, I know human nature. People see these people that make $10 million in a day and they want to replicate it, and it never happens. Danny did the right thing. Danny bought at 60 cents and he sold half at $1.50. So what does that mean? Well, let's say Danny bought $60 worth. That's 100 tokens. And he sold half at $1.50. So he sold at 75 cents per token. What I mean by that is he's already made 25% profit and he's still got a bag of the original coin. It's very, very simple to hold on to a moon bag once you've taken profits. It's very hard to hold on to a bag you've watched go all the way up and come all the way back down again, and it's now worth less than what you paid for it, because you may have held on to it too long. We could have had an situation. There's loads of other things that can go on. But at the end of the day, there's no absolute way to avoid a rug pull. But by taking those measures, the time that token's been live, the number of holders, maybe the liquidity as well, but that's getting a bit complicated, and then listing on centralized exchanges. If you've got a token that's got no centralized listing, is held by 100 people, and has been out for 2 days, and you go and buy $1,000 of that token, it could very well go to zero. That's it. Very simple, simply put. So you've got a better chance. And I made another video, which is 2025 memes are dead. Basically saying, go and buy meme coins from 2024, because they're the tokens that have been through this cycle of pump and dump. And the ones that have come out of 2024 are the ones which will probably hold value going into the end of the bull run, in my opinion. Anyway, that is enough for me today. It's 11 minutes past 12. I have got to go and make a video about Compounder, which is the project I showed you at the start of the show. Thank you, Solo Sky, Tariq, Cyberpunk, Danny, Kishan is in here, a few other people. One thing I want to point out is this week is a disjointed week. I will not be streaming Wednesday or Thursday, but Wednesday night we will be streaming the Chronos night. So Wednesday night there's a stream, and today at 5 p.m, I think 5 p.m, the Oracle is streaming. So in 5 hours time, we're going to have a second stream. Thank you to everybody for coming along. I hope you're all well. Take care. See you tomorrow.